So my name is Max Parks, aka Solar Max, and I am here to tell you guys about science and the government, and particularly the way that science interacts with and thrives within the political world of government. I am a UT Astronomy student, but I also study science policy, and I had the opportunity of being a NASA Legislative Affairs intern, which meant that I got to sort of explore the halls of Congress like Curiosity explores Mars. So I will warn you, so this is not a technical talk. This is a policy talk. There is one equation, though, for you guys who like math. I'm sure you'll notice. So everyone has their idea of what Washington, D.C. looks like. You know, you've got your corporate fat cats stuffing politicians full of money, and you have a bunch of old white guys wailing on each other. If you put that image into Google Images, it suggests the term reaching across the aisle, which I think is perfect. But the truth is that DC is sort of a little more straightforward than that, and a little more honest, and a little more selfish. Everyone is just trying to get reelected. No more, no less. Everyone is just thinking about 2018. And so, some government enthusiasts here, yeah. So what that means, so I think that's actually a good thing, because that means that every 2 years, the government is beholden to the people that they are supposed to be responsible to. And that actually leaves a lot of opportunity for us to voice our opinions, because they need to be listening. They know that every 2 years they have to know, they have to be able to come back and say, hey, we voted for that thing you like. And since we're here at Astronomy on Tap, that thing we like is science. So they do this by having staffers. Staffers are these people who work in the congressional offices, and there is a staffer for every kind of policy. The ones that we're interested in are the science staffers. And so the science staffers listen to scientists. When we want to build a new telescope, they ask us, well, what is it and how much does it cost? And then they go and ask think tanks, okay, these scientists asked for this thing, what do you guys think about it? And the think tanks provide sort of an independent perspective. But there's also the opportunity for citizens like ourselves to, call in and voice our opinions. And the staffers take that information as well, and they sort of bundle it all up into a policy recommendation that they then hand to the congressperson. The congressperson can't know about every little science thing we want to tell them, but the staffers can, and in fact, that's their job. So here's what that looks like. This is a typical DC office. And note the 20-something sitting at a desk answering phones and emails, and a big, beautiful window to an empty office because the congressperson is not there. They are, so they are actually, they're back in their district campaigning, or they'll be, in meetings and hearings, or actually voting. But the important thing is that, these staffers are running the office. They're there every day, day in, day out, and they are the point of contact for scientists and voters. And that means that they want to hear what you have to say. It's in their best interests to do so. So this is actually this is some survey data taken from an anonymous survey of a couple hundred staffers, and it explains how they, what different methods of outreach, how much they weigh on the congressperson's decision-making process. So if you'll notice, up here at the top, let's see if I can, I have a laser. So up here at the top is constituents visiting. That's a big deal. That's us. That's you guys. And also high on the list is people writing in emails and writing letters and calling in. If you take the time to personally reach out to your governmental office, they want to hear that kind of information. The other sort of, I think, positive note from this is if you look down somewhere in here, visits from lobbyists. Lobbyists, they're not quite as important as a lot of cynics would like to believe. It's fun to say lobbyists run the government, but no, citizens run the government. The only other, the thing that makes lobbyists powerful is that it's their job to use that little, 7% or something like that. So congressmen want you to, or rather these staffers want you to know, that you can reach out to them and that you can make your voice heard. Because it's part of their plan of action. The first thing they wanted, the first thing that a congressperson asks when presented with a new bill is, what have my constituents asked for? What are they, what are people calling in and writing about? But the truth is that not every policy issue, gets a whole lot of national attention and gets these writing campaigns. So then they fall back on another methodology. And that is, if the voters haven't said what they want, what would simply bring them the most money? What would bring jobs and economic security into the districts? Because, and here's that equation that congresspeople use, so if you're a congressperson, you ask yourself, or you use this formula, unemployment equals sad constituents, which equals unemployed congressmen. So, in an effort to not be unemployed, congresspeople are doing everything they can to bring home a positive message and bring home positive news about economic development. And the good news is that science and NASA are very good at navigating this. We're good at inspirational messaging. And the way we do that is actually, we have this map. It's called the NASA Procurement Map. And I would actually seriously encourage anyone who's interested to look that up. This is a map that you can find online, and you can actually click on any state, and it gives you a breakdown, district by district, of where NASA money goes. And so we bring this message to Congress, and we say, hey, yeah, you spent some money on NASA, but you brought in like 1 million jobs, or $1 million to high-tech jobs and well-paying jobs in your district. And that's a message that congresspeople love to take home. But not every district gets a NASA center or NASA manufacturing contracting. So we also have these PR campaigns that we do. One of the big ones through the Obama administration was Journey to Mars. So we were trying to get congresspeople excited about how we were going to get people to Mars. How are we going to, what are the steps along the way? And importantly, how does that benefit people here on Earth? So this is what's called NASA SpinOff technology. It's technologies that have been developed through NASA R&D that is then turned into, it's handed off to businesses, entrepreneurs, or medical professionals in the case of a few, to just be turned into day-to-day technologies that improve our lives. Two of my favorites, one, the thermometer, the infrared thermometer that you can just like stick up against your head as opposed to in your mouth or elsewhere. And then the other one is actually really cool. It's technology that was used to dock the space station to the ISS and the Mir, actually got turned into technology that helps LASIK doctors track your eyeball. So they're docking lasers with your eye like a spaceship. So that's pretty cool. And that's information that we like to bring home to congresspeople, because then they can take it to their district and say, hey, we don't have Johnson Space Center because we're in Wyoming, but we do have LASIK and we do have thermometers. So that's pretty cool. But not every, we're here at Astronomy on Tap, and we know that not all science is applied. We're interested in basic science because there's a beauty to just knowing. But the important thing is that messaging actually sort of resonates with Congress too. Congress wants to hear that a lot of research is going on because universities want research and cities want universities. Cities with universities, prestigious universities, Longhorn universities. Sorry, I'm bleeding orange. But yeah, so cities with these big universities can promise to their businesses, we're going to have a highly educated populace, we're going to bring in high-paying jobs, and we're going to bring in tech jobs. And those are things that you don't have to be a scientist to appreciate. So Congress loves to be able to tell their constituents that we're bringing home those kinds of jobs. There are also benefits that are long-term. That you can't predict every benefit of basic science. And that's sort of an important reason to just keep doing it. So, in summary, science and the government do get along. NASA is thriving. There is a notion that NASA is like closing its doors, but that's not quite the case. But we do need voter help. We do need the help of constituents. So it is important for you guys to remind your congresspeople who are elected every 2 years, hey, you know, my vote goes to the guy or woman who votes for science and votes for science-friendly policies and votes for more science funding. And if you tell your congressperson that, then I guarantee you, you will see more science funding and a better science climate. So I encourage all of you to go forth and advocate for science. Woo! Yeah.
All right, Solar Max. We have time for a few questions. Right up front.
It's your job. So I completely agree with that. Oh, sorry, I'll repeat the question, right, sorry. So the question was, in the context of clean water and clean air and EPA, not just NASA science, but all science, what was my perspective when I was in Congress? Is that fair? So there is good news, and that is that while I didn't really talk about the executive branch, because the executive branch is very volatile. So yeah, we're in Austin, we can joke about that. But no, so the truth is that it does change no matter which party is in power. But Congress is a lot less volatile. Congress doesn't shift quite so much. And so we do actually see more stability. And while there might be big campaigns about getting rid of certain agencies, there is hope because Congresspeople have people employed by those agencies. There are, Texas land management groups that will suffer and will raise hell if the EPA is seriously threatened. We will see changes in budget representing different priorities, but the slow churning nature of government is sort of both its worst enemy and its best asset. Does that sort of answer the question? Okay, next one.
Up front.
So if we want to talk to our representatives or like get involved, are there avenues we can take or information sources we can go to so that we know what to talk to them about and what might be relevant to science policy?
So the question was, if you want to get involved and if you want to help out, what is the best way to get informed so that when you meet with your representative or your staffers, you can be knowledgeable on the subject? And yes, there definitely are groups like that. Examples that come to mind are AAS, the American Astronomical Society, or AAAS, the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And particularly that last one, though there are a few more, American Society of Physics, they have essentially lobbyists. They have people whose job it is to better interface with the government. And I guarantee that if you go to AAAS, they would love to give you pamphlets. If you go to their website, I'm sure they have pamphlets and resources to help you be apprised of different policy issues that are coming up. Yeah, good question.
Other questions? All right.
So you haven't run into any staffers who found out they're working for a legislator with basically anti-science agenda? How do they deal with that?
So the question was, have we ever encountered legislators or staffers with an anti-science agenda? And it's sort of a mixed bag. I personally never had to deal with any. We did do a big data sheet of basically all the people in Congress. While I was at NASA, we did a data sheet of all the people in Congress and their science priorities. And what you'll find is that everyone is not, or there is no truly anti-science candidate. What you get are people who prioritize different things. So for some candidates, it might be that they want to see more climate research. And there might be other candidates who say, I don't care about climate research. In fact, I hate it. But I think it's really important that we beat the Russians to the ISS. And you're like, we work with the Russians on the ISS. But they're like, If we're, the fact is that we are paying, we do pay the Russians for seats, for seats on their rockets. And so when we bring that message to certain, what some might call anti-science members, they say, well, that won't do. We need to give NASA more money. It's just a matter of where it goes is the issue.
Well, they're definitely, yeah. So there's definitely anti-science. We know some in Texas who are definitely anti-science, but it sounds good that there's a way to advocate for science and make changes.
That's exactly right. And you will be surprised to find if you watch the congressional hearings and you read their papers, you find that they do. I mean, yeah, they're like really anti-science in some areas, and then talk about how beautiful it would be to understand more about the Big Bang, and you just. It's just a mixed bag.
Okay, up front.
Right.
I noticed that the phone call was ranked lower in the email. Do you know what's going on there?
So this is about personal phone calls and personal emails. If you send a form email, you can see them down at the bottom with 1%. But if you actually write out, a letter about how your, granddad worked for NASA and that meant a lot to you or something like that, that brings home a strong message, no matter what form.
All right, last comment, right up front.
What about petitions? I don't see them on that list anywhere.
So this is, so the question was, what about petitions? And this is a chart of actions that can be taken at the central office, not at a district office. And my guess is that petitions would be something of a, I'm not really sure, honestly, where they would fall on this. Maybe they don't rank. Maybe staffers don't think much of petitions. Not to speak ill of whitehouse.gov or anything like that. I'll be around if you guys have more questions.
All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks, Solar Max, one more time.